right, I call the meeting to order. Please rise. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Welcome to the last official day of summer, even though we're in fall. Okay, we don't have any visitors, so we're gonna move right over to item number 4 and the warrants. Everything has gone through. Joan has those back. Any questions on it, on the warrants? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion on approving the minutes for the Vergennes City Council meeting for September 13th, 2011.
I will make said motion.
Lowell made the motion, Randy seconded it. Any omissions, corrections, errors? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Next, budget review.
Yeah, Mike, I actually spent a fair amount of time today reviewing the budget, and I will say that there are some annoyances, if you will, on the revenue side, some being out of our control, obviously. Clerk fees are down a little bit. It's strange. Joan hears that other clerks are busy with recording refinances and things like that, and we're just not seeing it. There really just is not a lot of transfers, obviously, Zig, you know that well, and but we're not seeing any refinances either. I'm going to speculate that it's one of the reasons why we may not be seeing refinances like others have is because, you know, people have mortgaged right up to all of their equity, and they really, if they were to try to refinance, you know, an appraisal might not provide for any additional borrowing or even refinancing their existing debt. So that's my sense. So that's off a little bit. Relative to pilot, you'll notice that we got our check for $66,719 against a budget of $70,000. And what happened is when I put the budget together, I was informed that the legislature had increased pilot payment in lieu of taxes for state-owned properties by some 2.65%, and so I budgeted accordingly. And what happened, I got the check, and obviously it was, you know, $3,000 short, and immediately sent an email off to the league to find out, you know, what happened. And what ended up happening, we can't, you know, necessarily blame Winooski, but there was a new building, a state-owned building that went on the pilot list, and so that Winooski ended up with let's say they ended up with an extra $100,000, let's say. And so what happens is when the legislature allocates money for pilot, even if they increase it by 2.65%, that's the pie that gets sliced up amongst all of the towns. So if Winooski's share increases by $100,000, obviously everybody else's piece of the pie ends up being less. And so I actually spoke to Greg Clark about this because I really felt that that was a little bit, I'll say unfair. That you know, if the legislature has a pilot program whereby they're going to pay municipalities a payment in lieu of taxes, if the state has more state buildings, to me they need to budget accordingly. You know, to me nothing changed in Vergennes, so it's it obviously came to a surprise that we actually ended up seeing a cut in our pilot as opposed to an increase. So that 3,000 is not going to show up. Mileage aid is off a little bit. Education tax is off just a little bit, but nothing real concerning there. I will tell you that interest earnings. Joan and I talked a little bit today about how our auditors. I mentioned this at the last meeting about how they book our interest, and I can tell you, you know, we took this hit of $14,000, you know, at the end of the year, and they made us readjust our fair market value. And I haven't looked at September's, Joan, but I know that after the first two months of the fiscal year, the fair market value actually increased by $26,000. All right,
Yeah,
so we
so
actually
it's gonna all
can
come
book
right
that,
back.
but it's we feel a little funny booking $26,000 because The following month, it can change the fair market value of the items that Joan owes there. But anyway, you are gonna, that $52.81 just is simply interest on our checking account. It's not the interest on the $664,000 that we have invested. So next budget report, we'll get that, get some journal entries in there, get that taken care of. One of the things that I don't have a crystal ball, but I guess I'm supposed to, and I can tell you that throughout the budget, we pre-buy all of our fuel, and I based the budget, on the number of gallons that we have historically used, and at a price that, I thought I could project, and obviously fuel prices at the time of the pre-buy ended up being a fair amount more. So like when you see in the administrative budget, we budget $3,500. We pay for the first 1,300 gallons of fuel oil that comes to City Hall, and the Opera House pays for every gallon thereafter. And so I pre-buy 1,300. So those 1,300 gallons ended up costing $4,290 as opposed to the $3,500. And there's really a kind of a similar story throughout the budget where we haven't budgeted accordingly. Police department, there's a few check marks I mentioned before. I'll talk a little bit about the COPS grant in a little bit. In the public works, the only check mark on fuel oil, but one of the things, we ended up with a bit of a problem with our traffic light in the center of town, and had to have Fred Chamberlain's company, CEA, I think it is, that to come down and reprogram. And I think that in the project that occurred up there, that there's a wire that goes to a lane detector out on Green Street that got severed. There was actually a period of time when if you came up on Green Street, obviously the traffic light didn't recognize that you were there. And so we had to have them come in, do a little bit of excavating, and splice that wire back in place. So typically that traffic light and blinker maintenance bill is just the Green Mountain Power bill to run it. Typically there's no maintenance to those items, but there was this year. Over in fire department, I have a check mark next to dispatching, and I don't, Peter may not know anything about this, but our fire department has its dispatching through Shelburne, and they, Peter certainly knows about it on the rescue squad side. You have a contract with Shelburne to do your dispatching, and they keep track of the number of calls that they dispatch for you and bill accordingly. And we were in a bit of a debate with Shelburne over the last 3 years that I've been back here, about how they have run that calculation, and because I felt that it was a little bit unfair. For instance, they call the rescue squad to go to a heart attack on South Water Street, and the rescue squad needs some assistance in the form of a lift assist, and so the fire department gets toned out. They were, in essence, billing both the rescue squad and the fire department for that dispatching call. And I met with the town manager and Jim Warden, and his last name is Jim Mack possibly, who heads up their dispatching service. And Jim Warden stopped down to see me a few weeks ago to let me know that my argument was accepted, that really that's really one call, and the bill goes to the rescue squad, and it was going there anyway, but there's no second bill to the fire department for lift assist. If there's an accident, there is a call. Rescue squad's rolling, fire department's rolling, but on lift assist or kind of mutual aid calls for the rescue squad, there's not an extra charge. So we had been seeing bills in the $4,300, $4,600 range. I'd been paying $1,800 or $1,900 because the bill was under protest, if you will, and they've finally agreed that I have a point, and they've adjusted their policy. I'm not sure what the bill's gonna be, but I hope it'll be somewhere in the vicinity of the $2,000 that were budgeted. So those are the only items I have on budget month.
Excuse me. Anyone have any questions of Mel on anything about budget? If not, does anybody have anything pressing on committee reports that they want to share?
The rec committee met last week, and we're discussing redesign and refinishing the basketball court.
Very good. I did get your email that you sent out to Mel and I with that
Oh.
lady. Would be nice to have her in and talk to her at some point, one-on-one, and just let her know some of the trials and tribulations that we're seeing as far as volunteerism. She brought out a lot of good points, and of course they involve money in several cases, and so it would be nice if everybody had as much enthusiasm as she does, and she brought out, like I said, a lot of good points, and so to bring that to fruition, that would be a task in itself. But you know, if she would like to help in some way, let's see if there might be something we could start a ball rolling somewhere. So to get some more talk about it. Okay, anybody else? Anything? All right. Well, no public comment. Whole business. We're going to jump right into out-of-town sewer rates.
In front of you, I put a spreadsheet, if you will, which you've seen portions of this in the past. It's actually the same spreadsheet you saw when we were talking about doing away with the bonded debt. And so I just hid some columns and created some columns to give you a complete history of what we have been charging for out-of-town hookups. And I do apologize for the long-winded cover memo. There are 2 pages, but I just felt it was important to get to try to share a real history with it. I will tell you that the statute on sewer rates is, as I mentioned in the memo, is absolutely silent as it relates to out-of-district rates. And so there isn't some statute that can direct you as to, you know, what is appropriate and fair and following the law. It's absolutely silent. I will tell you that, as I mentioned in my memo, I really do believe there are some towns out there that do not charge any surcharge, if you will, or any premium charge for out of district. I don't obviously have enough information to know how they've drawn that conclusion, but I do feel in our instance that there is certainly staff time, my time, Joan's time, Leslie and Melissa's time, and Public Works time that is clearly beyond the $70,000 transfer that we run from the sewer department over to the general fund to, in essence, attempt to offset that expense. This is the other thing, the formula that the city has been using for a long time, I really don't think is quite fair. And one of the reasons why I don't feel that it's quite fair is that the formula is double operation and maintenance, no bonded debt charge. So let's say that over time, the bonded debt charge goes down, at least as a percentage of the budget. I can tell you that our current bonded debt, we pay $123,000 a year. I don't think that number ever changes. It's like a mortgage on your house. It stays that amount year after year. You know, our old debt didn't work that way. You used to pay, you know, $20,000 in principal and interest on the balance. And so what was happening with our old debt is, as time went by, your interest and principal payments, the combination of interest and principal, were going down. Now, if your overall budget stays the same and your bonded debt expense continues to go down, either on its own or a percentage of the budget, and you have a formula that says that out of district pays double operation and maintenance, what has happened is let's say the rate is $350 a year for a single family residence, and the bonded debt calculates to be $70, let's just say. And so you subtract $350, you subtract the 70 from $350, it gives you $280. You multiply 280 times 2, that gets you $560. and we would bill the out-of-towners $560. Let's say your bonded debt goes down to $50, all right? So, but the rate stays at $350. So it's $350 minus 50 is $300, and an out-of-district would pay $600. So the point is that under that formula, an out-of-district, where everybody in Vergennes, their bill stays the same. If you're out-of-district, your bill goes up, only because of the formula. You know, it's double operation, which is the difference between the total bill and bonded debt. So one of the things that I'm suggesting is that we just set a percentage, and that way, if a sewer bill in Vergennes goes up, then a sewer bill for an out-of-district goes up the same percentage. If it goes down the same percentage. So as opposed to having a formula driving that, it would be strictly in essence, a premium charge for out-of-district. My memo suggests 40%, and I can tell you it's not like I did a lot of math to do that. If you average up all of the surcharges over the years, it's been about 40%. That's what we've charged. This is not a table pounder for me. However you all, feel, you want to, when you set a rate for out of district is absolutely fine with me.
So you're saying you want to add 40% on top of?
I would suggest that the formula of double operation and maintenance be abandoned and replaced with, in essence, a premium percentage above the Vergennes rate for out-of-district connections.
What's the rationale for charging out of district any more than in district?
One of the things is because an out-of-district property does not pay any property taxes.
Okay, right.
Therefore, they are not contributing any money to my time, Joan's time, Public
Right.
Works time, any of our time. Now, there is a transfer of $70,000 a year that goes from the sewer fund to the general fund. And I can tell you, we don't come to work with an egg timer and flip it over and count our minutes in a day that we're working for sewer. So I don't have that, but there's probably ways of calculating that. I mean, the sewer budget $600,000, the general fund budget is 1.6. Somebody might argue that they could argue that a third of my wages and benefits are sewer related. They could Joan collects $600,000. She bills out $3 million in taxes. So 1/5 of her time could be arguably sewer related. So we haven't done an absolute some calculation, Peter, to try to see if that's right. But I think that there is a rationale because they aren't paying property taxes.
Right, so the transfer from basically property taxes to the sewer, that's 70.
Sewer to property taxes.
Okay. So at least at that level, there's been some sort of determination that that's what the property taxes people are putting in. I mean, the residents of Vergennes are putting in, the people outside aren't.
Well, everybody pays into the sewer fund, and there's a $70,000 transfer.
Right.
Let's just say that we actually ran a calculation.
Right, yeah.
And concluded that it was $150,000.
Right,
That
yeah.
was the right number.
Right, yeah.
And let's say that the city council said, if that's the right number, that's the number that's gonna go into the budget. And so that line item goes from 70 to 150, and the sewer budget goes from $580,000 to 660, and we have to raise rates.
Right.
All right, you have to raise rates in the sewer fund to come up with that. That's one thing that could be done, all right? The other thing is to just recognize the fact that there's, believe me, when I say these numbers, 150, 160, I don't know what it is.
Right.
I really don't.
Yeah.
But, one of the things is that if it is $150,000, that $80,000 delta is only being paid by Vergennes residents.
Right.
None of it is being paid, none of it's being absorbed by the 7 property owners, 7 or 8 property owners outside of town.
Okay, but if you, and I understand the 70,000 is potentially the tip of the iceberg, but if you just use that as a rough calculation, what's that, about $35 per taxpayer? Or is, I'm waiting, I got taxpayers and voters.
Well, I mean,
How many tax-paying
we
properties?
send out, if we send out 932 tax bills.
Okay, so that'd be about
Okay, call it $1,000,
$70.
$70.
$70, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that on that level, obviously the out of city people owe that much to make them even at least.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
where does your 40% figure into that?
it's just simply an average
No,
of what
I
we've been
understand.
doing.
What, how much would it?
It would be added
It'd
on
be
top.
$140. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
So Mel, in other words, like my building, it's $29 roughly per unit. If we add, and
Per month.
Yeah, a month. And if you add 40%, which would be like $11.60, so it'd be roughly a total of $40.60.
If you
For
were,
the out of
if
town.
you were
For the
out of town.
Yeah,
If
that's
you
what
were-
I'm saying,
yeah.
for the out-of-towners.
Right,
So they
that's
would
right.
pay $40.60 compared to our $29.
right. Basically, when you look at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 properties,
Yeah.
there's 7 properties. Obviously, the residences, Martin, Morby, Emilo, Menard, the Pomelo and Jevry, those actually are billed quarterly. The FIC, which, the 153 and 155 Moncton Road, just so that you know what that property is, that's Chamberlain Flooring and the Chittenden Bank. And the Abishan, Schwenley,
Complex.
Subway, CarQuest complex.
Which one is
Those are the 7 units over there.
Okay, yeah.
They're,
Okay.
we actually bill them
Yeah,
monthly. They never go over their minimum.
Right.
Okay, but one of the reasons why we bill them monthly is because that property there, we have an interim sewer extension agreement whereby they can use up to, I believe it's 6,000 gallons per day. We monitor that to make sure that they're not using more than the agreed amount, and it really doesn't come close, but we do bill them once a month.
And we most likely would want to maintain that, at least that specialty where we're monitoring, so that if they did go over,
Yeah, we monitor them monthly. They're actually supposed to report to us at the end of the year, but we already have they
I'm
don't
just-
report.
when and if we change this, one of the things we don't want to let fall between the cracks is the fact that if there's the specialties of, like Arbishan's monitoring system, so that if they go over on allotted
Yeah.
usage, and we have a way to prove it,
Well, we
then
do.
we would have to be compensated for that
Absolutely.
extra.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
but
absolutely. If anytime that there's a change of use over there, there really is there's an application and approval process. Subway is a change. Let's say, remember there was a computer repair shop in there, all right? If you have a computer shop with 1 employee, from a state rules and regulations, are 13.5 gallons per day per person, all right? It's nothing, all right? You put a Subway in there where they're
Restaurants,
washing and
yeah.
cleaning, whatever, there's a lot more usage. So there is potentially a combination of uses over there where they could conceivably hit that 6,000 gallons, and either they would have to, if they got near that, they would either have to take some conservation efforts over there to, low flow toilets, restricted flow, whatever, to get that number down, or they would have to come back and renegotiate the agreement that we have with them.
Now, the Jevry, is there anybody in that park over there right now?
There is not, but we do not, the way that our billing, we treat it really like taxes, Zig. If somebody has a 4-family dwelling and one of the apartments is not rented, we adjust no bills.
Okay.
So do we need a motion to?
We do.
I'd like to propose a motion that we set the out-of-town, that we set the out-of-town sewage rate at 140% of the residential sewage rate. And I'd like to also add that we review this policy in a year to make sure that it's working properly.
I'll second.
Motion by Joe, seconded by Lowell, and any other questions? Okay, so
Don't we have to rescind the old policy first?
No, it's okay, no.
This would be a supersede.
Yeah, you
Supersede.
It's not a part of the ordinance, you know, the city council sets rates, and one of the things, I'm glad you brought that up, Joe, because one of the things that I mentioned in my memo is, it's funny, when we're working on the city budget, I think everybody, including myself, we're concentrating on taxes, and we forget that there's an obligation to review rates every year. So one of the things that we should be, you know, looking at that in May anyway. And so, I mean, I know you said a year, or as long as it's within a year, Joe, I think that it's good to take a look at it.
are we in a time frame that by passing it tonight, we can impose it on the next billing?
Oh, yeah. Not a problem.
So it's not, no rush?
No.
So we're good?
And am I reading this right, that it's actually a reduction from what people might have been expecting?
That's,
Yeah.
they actually will see a reduction in their bill,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
correct.
okay.
So they should be happy.
Toby should stop hounding me.
Well, I'll tell you one of the things that we uncovered, not that we're gonna give anybody any money back, but, you know, if you look at see where it hit the peak there at the 193.6?
Yes.
So the rate was $580. I'll tell you what ended up happening is when the city did the sewer upgrade project in 2000, and you had a new, and I don't know if it was discussed in 2000, but it was certainly discussed in 2005. And I think that Rennie may have caught, it took a couple of years to catch this, but when the city council said, we can't charge a property owner $72.27 per year bonded debt when they're not connected to the system. The city council really struggled. You can do it. You can charge property owners that aren't connected, but it was very clear. I wasn't working here, but Joan says that there was a lot of discussion around the board, and the board came to the conclusion that they would not charge a property owner, somebody who has a developed property, you own one, Zig, not connected to the sewer system, $72, all right? And so what the city council did is they set that rate at, $8.80 or $9.60, even though it really was even though it should have been $72. Now, when they calculated the non-resident's bill, they used the greatly discounted bonded debt. I mean, the true operation and maintenance portion was $72 a year more than the $960. So I can tell you, those 2 years, right, well, there's anything that says 193.60, because that was a new debt, right, Joan, in 2000? In those years right there, it really should have been looked at. Because to me, yes, we were billing in accordance with the formula. You know, we were billing Ferrisburg double operation and maintenance and no bonded debt. The problem is that the city wasn't billing bonded debt appropriately, and therefore wasn't billing out of district appropriately, in my opinion.
But someone like me, I was still in Vergennes, so that was a little bit different, correct?
Yes, that's correct, you're right.
Did you have something, Randy, you want to say?
Nope.
Okay. No other discussion? We have a motion on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Great job, Mel. Thank you. Joan, if you were involved, thank you. Conservation Commission.
You skipped one, Mike.
Whoops, I
Skip
did.
B.
Revising it.
Excuse me, I did. I marked it and I didn't do it. Let's go to B then. Revised investment policy.
Yeah, what I have an original here. All it does is reflect the change that the city council made at the last meeting. I didn't realize that this was a signed policy. The other thing is that this policy has to be maintained on file with MBS and with Edward Jones. And so I'm just simply asking for the council to sign this policy this evening that reflects the motion that was passed at the last meeting.
Just a quick question about procedure again. I didn't vote at the last meeting on this. Do I sign it as I wish, or do I?
You have the option to or not to sign it, okay?
Okay.
It's strictly, you're not
Okay.
required to sign it.
And was the vote unanimous?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
It was, a general overview was the fact that it was in the best interest of the voters to get the best rate that was possible, no matter where it was. We would be penalizing the voters if we were stuck within Vermont. Okay. Let me just throw my job.
Conservation Commission, as my cover memo indicated, the city council made a motion, I think it may have been last December, let's say, and there was a motion that was approved by the board to table this until the fall. And obviously, it's fall. I think it's the fall or not quite fall?
It's fall.
It's fall. And anyway, the planning commission discussed this the other night at their meeting. And they would appreciate the city council leaving this matter on the table, and which would give them an opportunity to conduct further study about the creation of a conservation commission and come back with a recommendation. I don't want to hold them to a date. I just know that they clearly have their plate full relative to the zoning rewrite, and just feel that they don't have enough time to get people in, do their research to be able to make a recommendation to the board. So what I'm leave that with Joan is I'm recommending that the city council approve a continued tabling of this matter until it's brought back to the board at the request of the planning commission.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Peter, Randy seconded it. Open for discussion.
No comment right now.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. City managers report.
Yeah, Mike, I just want to touch on a few things. One of the things, just to let you know, Jim Laro has been out on medical leave for the last couple of weeks, and he's going to be out on medical leave for at least a couple of more weeks. Obviously, I really kind of want everybody to be a little patient here with we have a real lean crew at this point. Jim knows, and I met with he and his wife last week. I know he really feels bad that he can't come to work and give 100%. And of course, he left at a time where we're doing paving and ditching and all kinds of work. But Pat Crowley, who's our senior guy, and Lyle, and our new person Chris Bear. It's really, they've really done a heck of a job, with that skeleton crew. So, they're trying to not only do projects, but keep up with everything, that is on their plate. So we really are hoping that, Jim recovers. He did call us, I didn't speak to him, but I think he spoke to you, Joan, or Melissa, that his operation went well, and he's recovering, and we can get him back to work within the next couple of weeks, even if it's just on light duty. So that's that.
As long as you're on the city crew, I'd just like to add, I talked to Jimmy on Friday night before he went into the operation, and he just is so impressed about his crew. He had created a list at least a month in advance, and the guys are on top of everything, and he really is proud of those guys, that they're doing so well. They're doing a great job. So Pat and Chris and Lyle and the other ones, that he said thanks.
The next topic that Joan and I are going to feel like we just did this last month, but we totally revamped our medical insurance for employees for 2011. And what has happened, and we obviously buy our medical insurance for employees through VLCT Health Trust, and typically the health trust establishes the company that's going to write the coverage. And we have been with Cigna for, I really don't know, Joan, but I don't know, 7-8 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever, however it's been, quite a while, all right? I can't remember who was here when I was here last. But anyway, Cigna has decided that they will not write coverage for any employer with less than 50 covered employees. So they will continue to write coverage for the city of South Burlington. I think Middlebury has more than 50 employees, Montpelier, any of those larger municipalities, they will write, they'll provide medical coverage to them, but they will not for so-called small groups like us. And so what we're ending up being faced with, which is very different, is that the VLCT Health Trust has, instead of dictating, if you will, the company we can use, there's actually 3 companies that, well, actually there's just 2, to be honest with you, because we can't count Cigna, but now we're able to get individual quotes, if you will, from either Blue Cross Blue Shield or MVP. And of course, obviously our system with the medical pool, trying to get it to be very similar to what we've been doing this past year, which I can tell you in 2011, when we totally restructured this whole thing with the high deductible plan and an increased medical pool, it's working very, very well. And I think when we did this, Joan and I thought, like, this is good, this is great, this thing is
Yeah, we were
working
nervous.
well, and I hope this hangs in for a good long time. Well, that good long time is a year. So it forces me to analyze medical insurance and premiums and deductible pools and all that type of thing. But I will tell you that the information I've got, I don't see a budget problem. That I was thinking that part of the reason why we made the switch last year is because we had some serious budget problems. I mean, medical insurance went up 28% or something like that, and so we had to restructure, and we did restructure. And I think now employees are very comfortable with our high deductible plans, with a health reimbursement account for them, of which they have a debit card, if you will, to access that account. I think it's working. There might have been a couple of bumps with a couple of employees that I was able to get straightened out. It was really, making sure that employees understood how the whole system works, and it really works well. So I'm having to spend time on medical insurance, which like I said, I hoped I didn't have to do that for a long time.
Now,
Yeah.
didn't they used to way back, of course that tells my age, then sometimes different towns used to get together if there were small groups?
It is still group rated, all right? So
Okay.
we're still with the league's VLCT Health Trust, and all of us small towns, we all will get the same rate.
Okay.
But it's just kind of weird that Cigna, I mean, I like Cigna, what's a little weird is Cigna will continue to write coverage for towns of 50 or more, but you can't have Vergennes, Panton, Ferrisburg, and the Vergennes-Panton Water District come together to come up with 50 and do the
Right.
same.
Could
It's just-
you piggyback off a town that has 50?
No,
Really?
no.
And their whole deal is their cost, they figure a 50 person pool is better averages for income versus
Yeah.
payouts.
Yeah. It may be the billing, we have 14 employees, so maybe we're just too small potatoes for them to be sending out bills for 14 employees. I don't know, but anyway, not available to us. It's not an option. So, hello registration forms, Joan.
Again.
Next item, I just wanted to let you know that I have sent emails out to 4 different engineering firms, Trudell's, Stantec, Phelps Engineering, and Otter Creek, to help us with our stormwater system permits. One of the things, I had never read a stormwater permit, but obviously this claim, makes you say, wow, there's a little more to this from a monitoring and compliance standpoint than what I had envisioned. So To me, we need to at least, have an engineering firm, train us with either conduct the inspections and the reporting requirements back to A&R, or train us in how to do it. So I've already got some responses, so I'm gonna hire somebody. We have three stormwater, the city inherited three stormwater permits, Sunset Drive, Thomas Circle, and Crosby Farms. There are some other stormwater permits, BF Goodrich has the stormwater permits, but it's all contained on their own property, so the city doesn't have anything to do with that. But, I just think it's clearly important that we need to totally understand these permits. They're only 5-year permits. They need to be reapplied. I can't reapply for them. It requires an engineering firm to reapply, so I just think that that's the route that we need to go to, make sure that we're in compliance with the permits that we ended up inheriting. Remember, at least in the case of Sunset Drive and Thomas Circle, their permits were abandoned. I mean, the developers went away and the permits lapsed, and there was no entity, there was no homeowners association to pick up the ball, and the city ended up taking those over, in 2006 or 2007, something like that. And I think we're about approaching the 5-year point on those.
Are the houses on Thomas Circle and the other place, are they hooked to the stormwater drains?
I really don't know, Zig, about who has, clearly, the stormwater systems, I believe were constructed to deal with street drainage.
Right.
All right, I don't know, I'm not gonna say that I've seen the original applications, because the original stormwater permits, they applied for them with the state. They didn't apply for them for the city, they applied to the state. So one of the things that we need to have a much better understanding on is whether or not these systems were designed to accommodate footing drains and sump pumps from houses, or were these stormwater systems really just designed for street drainage? And therefore, any of these homes that hooked into them originally, it's very possible that they shouldn't have been allowed to hook into them.
Right.
So that's something that we're gonna, relative to the TARP claim, although I shared with you the denial letter, that claim is not over yet. The TARPs have filed for a reconsideration. I met with Mike, I spoke to Mike Ortega the other day. He's making arrangements with another engineering firm, Hoyle Tanner, to meet with us to try to sort out whether or not there is any liability on the part of the city. So it's not, this matter isn't over, but to me, we gotta move forward. The city has these permits, there are permits, and we need to comply with them, both in monitoring, inspections, and reporting. So I want to get us in a better place.
So what happens if it's been designed only for streets and there's people hooked onto it? What happens then?
That's a good question, Zig. I don't know. It is possible that people might have to be forced off.
Okay.
Don't know. We'll find that out. I'll keep you posted. Next item, Mike, the revolving loan fund. Are you on that, Zig? Who's on the revolving loan fund?
David? Was David on that?
I don't know. Well, anyway, I just want to let you know, in a couple of weeks, we actually have two very likely applications to the revolving loan fund. And so I'm going to be getting that group to convene hopefully within the next couple of weeks. I really don't have that policy memorized. There's a Maynard revolving loan policy. I don't know off the top of my head whether or not that committee has the authority to make those loans, or whether or not that committee comes back to the city council. I'm just not sure off the top of my head.
We did it on, we made
We
the loan.
City
made
council
the
did?
loans.
Yeah.
No,
No.
Oh, the committee.
the committee did.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
Chris Collette was on it.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
on it, yeah. I just wasn't sure if there was, I thought there was a member of the city council.
Ziggy is the member of the
Yeah, I was on
council.
it too.
Okay, well, I just want to let you know that there's going to be some activity relative to the revolving loan fund.
By the way, I've asked Chris if she could help out on any of those things, and feel free to call upon her
Okay.
and see if she's available.
Yep. The next item, just to report on, I'll jump to the end and jump back in. One of the things, if you haven't been down to the tennis courts have been totally done. They've been resurfaced, they are in great shape. We also relocated there's drains that run around the perimeter of the tennis courts, and we were able to locate the ends of both of those drains.
Outlets.
What's that?
Outlets.
Outlets, they were a little overgrown, and so there's a little maintenance issue there that we need to make sure is taken care of on a regular basis to make, because I think that it's possible that part of the reason why the court, because when you look at the drawings of the way the construction was set up with the sand and gravel and whatever, the design is fine. I mean, it's got more base than any of the roads in Virginia, basically, right? And if it was built in accordance with that, it's fine. But you need to have proper drainage to make sure that the base doesn't become saturated, because that's when frost heave and movement and stuff like that. So it's important that those drains be done. So anyway, that part is done. And as Joe mentioned, I did send an email to Vermont Tennis Court Resurfacing. He's gonna try to get here within the next week or so, because we really need to give some attention to that facility there. It's very tired, but I don't think that we're too late. I think that, possibly resurfacing and getting the thing sealed, and as we met with Peter Quinn, if you know Peter or not, but he's a basketball guy, and he knows a lot about basketball courts, and he's given us a little advice as to what he would do if it was his. And so we good when Ray Greenleaf gets here to come and so you really, hopefully, this is not gonna be cheap, I can tell you that, but I think it'd be really good. It really is not good down there. I mean, it's that facility is embarrassing in my mind. It really needs an upgrade.
When you put water on top of something and it goes down the cracks, it's gonna expand and push things, it's gonna make the cracks bigger.
So the surface
So-
needs to be improved.
Oh, yeah.
The last item, I'm sure you read about in the newspaper, is we received a $131,000 COPS grant from the federal government, and I've just barely started looking into all of the what we need to do to whatever process we need and how reimbursements work. But anyway, that's a real shot in the arm for the police department. It really will give us much, close, not completely, but it'll get us closer to 24-hour coverage. It'll allow, George with some greater flexibility. Guys can't take vacations, time off. Somebody gets sick. I mean, it's really a problem. So this will help us out.
Should we be thinking about, can't do it in this budget year, but maybe in next budget year and a couple of years after that, is to budget some money to be set aside so that when that fourth year comes, we don't get a sticker shock as far as being able to bank away some money.
We could do that, Mike. One of the thoughts that George and I have talked about is, because the way that this grant works is the $131,000 is base pay and uniforms, training costs, any out-of-pocket costs for that employee for 36 months, and there's a requirement that employee or that position remain filled for an additional year. So one way to deal with that, Mike, would be to set, in essence, set some money aside. Another way to do that about that fourth year is really to make sure that we are in very good shape during the first 3 years, so that when we get to year 4, is a year that we aren't buying a cruiser. We aren't, because a cruiser is about a year's worth of base pay. And so I think we can handle it by timing. It's the fifth year. It's the fifth year that's concerning, to be honest with you. But
How close are we to 24-hour coverage with this new addition?
We one of the things, Randy, we we have been staggering the shifts a little bit, so we aren't as predictable as we once were. I mean, in the past years, we stopped at 3 and came in at 8. I mean, you could, basically you might just say, okay,
5 hours there.
the city shore is at 3:10, all right? That's not what we do any longer. So that's really the gap, historically was in essence, call it 3 to 8, just for the sake of discussion. So we were running about 19 hours of on duty out of 24. This should help us
Tighten that
tighten that up a little bit, and have that, if there is to be a gap, have that gap be moving, so it's not always the same period of time.
You think it's gonna help with the overtime?
I think it'll help, Mike. The so-called overtime premium pay, I've mentioned this before, that line item on overtime is anytime somebody is paid premium pay, time and a half for hours worked over 40. If a special works on a holiday, they're paid double time. If a regular officer works on a holiday, they're paid time and a half. So a lot of that overtime is spent just because of our personnel policy and the way that it works, on holidays. The other thing that the overtime happens is if the police, they arrest somebody at, it's not like it can't be like they got an hour left in their shift and they say, okay, let's not do anything, all right? Because if they do something with a half hour left in their shift and they end up having to bring somebody to jail, so, George monitors the overtime. There's no scheduled overtime, all right? But if something happens, like the recent events that occurred, at Champlain Farms, those types of things, you can't control them. It's very difficult. So it will help, but it's not going to cure that, because a lot of it is just out of our control. It's like snowing. It's like the public works. It'd be great if it snowed somewhere between 6:30 and 3 o'clock Monday through Fridays. It'd be really handy for us, but it doesn't work that way.
I didn't know if there might be other ways, and I'm not trying to take away overtime from people, but to manage stuff in a manner that whether they pull in a part-timer, which you would be paying a lesser rate to, and I'm not trying to be overly cheap with people either, or in some cases, sheriff's department to do an actual transport. So that, I'm sure that George and you are looking at all those avenues. But nope, great.
Well, I mean, obviously, we have some good, I just appointed another special, but obviously, our
Skinny guy?
our
Tall?
tall guy, yeah, I mean, obviously, Bill Wager, Bob Worley, I mean, yeah, they're specials, but, they have full-time jobs, so, their schedules, they don't have complete flexibility, but we certainly, we use them a fair amount for sure.
Good. Anything else?
That's all I had, Mike.
Do you know how things are going on Falls Parks, not Falls Park, the Falls there?
Riverwalk, we meet about every couple of weeks. I will tell you that I like Sandy with Redesign is good. I will tell you that one of the pours that they did is, I think that they tried to take on too many yards at once, and so when that occurs, you end up with some quality issues. However, the contract does provide that when there is some surface modifications that need to be done, and there is some of that is going to have to occur down there to make sure that the surface is consistent. I want it to look good, and so we have spent a lot of time discussing, because once it's there, it's there. And, in some instances, they did a little bit of grinding. I didn't really like that. So there are some finishes, as you know, Mike, that you can, these concrete finishes that have very good adhesive qualities. But You know, it's like I say, I really want the stairs to look nice, you know, and be very consistent, you know, both in color and texture. So that's what I concentrate on, Mike, so.
Yep, that's good.
It's not the project won't be done until May, you know, I mean, I think.
Oh, so it's not in November now?
No.
Okay.
No.
And we're gonna try to do some sort of a ribbon cutting and,
Yeah, as soon
Hopefully.
as soon as I know, but it's not a fall
No,
ribbon cutting.
no.
It'll be a spring.
the other thing that was supposed to happen at one point, and I thought it was in part of the agreement, was supposed to be a ribbon cutting for the skate park back before you came,
Uh-huh.
and that never did happen, so I don't know if it's too late, but not a big deal. Okay, good deal. Any questions of Mel?
Just one. Well, actually, it's kind of a statement. You're using a balloon system, pouring system for that stairway?
It's called a fabric form, you know, where instead of just typical, you know, plywood stud form, they actually use a combination of you know, there's still some plywood down there, studs, but they use a fabric form. It's pretty neat. It's
I actually have some pictures of it. I'll forward them to you.
Yeah, what it allows them to do if you see this, it's like the form is kind of like a burlap bag kind of a thing, and they actually, when they create the form, it actually looks like stacked stone, all right, from a little bit of a distance. I mean, if you're right up on top of it, you can tell that this is just one solid wall of concrete, all right? But the way that they do the fabric with like bolts and whatever, so it's hard to describe, but it's like if you had a stud, and then you had some horizontal beams, and then you just put a bunch of plastic up against it, and you poured concrete into it. In between the vertical studs and the horizontal studs, obviously that concrete is gonna push the plastic out. Well, they use it with fabric, so it's very predictable that it's only going to push out an inch and a half, all right? And so what you end up with in between the vertical studs and the horizontal studs that are done just like bricks, you know, the design is such that you have a stone, you know, it looks like you have a stone.
Stacked.
Yeah, it's like it's brick stacked. It's really a pretty neat application, you know, to me. So anyway, that's how it's done. Fabric form concrete, it's called.
Okay. See,
I had a person approach me and ask me a question, and I said I'd try to get the answer, but has to do with, you know, the store hours. And like, for instance, Champlain, they're open 24 hours a day. When they came in front of whoever they came in front of, do they tell you how many people are on duty, or is there a specification, or they can do what they want? So if they want to be, do they get approved for just the 24 hours, and if they want 1 on duty, 2 on duty, 3 on duty, that's up to them? Or is there some plan that they have to present to us?
You know, obviously, if somebody has a new business,
Yeah.
and let's say that through the public hearing process, you know, there are, I can tell you that Vergennes Redemption Center, through their permit process, their permit has, you know, open and closed hours in their permit, right? The Champlain Farms, you know, that is an old, you know, whenever, I have no ideas, I mean, I remember, you know, years ago, it used to be a gas station, and then it evolved into a convenience store. You know, I suppose we could find some approval when that occurred, and I'm sure there is no formal findings of fact and decision and conditions of the number of hours there, and so therefore their retail store, you know, doesn't have a condition controlling, you know, how many hours. Now, you know, so I can't do anything about
All
their
right, so
existing
this
permit.
Champlain Farms was when the gentleman that.
Frank?
Frank.
Yeah.
So he was under that rule and regulation on that one, so when he left, they just picked up where they left off, or what he was, I'm not quite understand this. I thought if it's a different business goes in, that they have to go through the whole process.
No, no, if there's
They
no
don't.
change of use, there's no new
I
permit
see.
required. So if that building, it's a gas station and a convenience store, it's a retail store, and if they want, like in Main Street, if somebody has a shoe store that's retail, and the shoe store goes out of business, and they're gonna turn it into a store, you know, selling something else, there's no change of use. It's not about what you sell, it's the use. So there was no,
Change of use,
there was
right.
no change of use, therefore there's no requirement to go in front of the Development Review Board. Now, whether or not a municipality can prohibit by either zoning or ordinance for a business to be open 24 hours a day, I don't know that answer. I mean, it's something, you know, I'd have to research or go to the League of Cities and Towns to see if, you know, if a town can control the number of hours a business is open. I don't know.
And I don't know if this person was asking that, or just say if they can control how many people, you know, after a certain hour, if they should have more on duty. I said, I don't know anything about it, so that's why.
Yeah, no, no,
It's staff, it's done by what their insurance carrier will allow. Some companies require 2 people on staff at all times on the premises.
But it has nothing to do with the city, though. That's
No,
what I was
no,
asking.
no.
Okay.
It's an employment thing, so. Okay,
All right.
new business, I have a few announcements. The council received this in their packet, but I want to share it with the citizens that received a very nice note from one of the boaters that came up and rode out the storm of Irene at the city dock, and the compliments that they made. I won't read it, but it singles out actually it tells about how they were very helped, and they just overwhelmed by the generosity of the city during this unexpected weather, and the fact that the city crew was there several times during the night, checking on the well-being of the boats, the docks, and the people themselves, and they were there. I went down around 5 o'clock in the morning on my way to work, and Jimmy was there at the dock, checking on people, making sure everything was okay, and so we really have a crew, not that they didn't in the past, but they really take a lot of pride in what they do for the city, and the people that come to visit us see that pride, and it's well appreciated.
I understand the people on the boats also took turns and made sure a couple were up well when they were coming back through again to help them, you know. So they were taking turns with each other.
Yeah. Another thing, I don't know if I shared it with the council or not.
You did.
I did, but they're going to do an archaeology dig over at Northland Job Corps on the bank of the creek for McDonough's boathouse, or boat site. Again, they don't know exactly where it is. They're not sure if they will find some Indian artifacts or remnants of the boat building process, but that's going to be happening in the very near future. So there's a little bit. The other couple things that I have, if I can get them up without making a bunch of noise, paper noise, is, as everybody knows, we're having, Vergennes is sponsoring the Haunted Warehouse over at Kennedy Brothers. Wynn is graciously letting us use this building at no charge. Some people are volunteering. We're always looking for more static displays to go on. Get on the website, look up my email, send me a note. If you want to get involved as well, this is going to happen on the 22nd of October. We're going to do a matinee in the afternoon for the kiddies, and at night is for the larger kiddies. And we're going to downplay a little bit for the small children. We're going to say like 10 and under, and they're going to get in at a lesser rate. So we're going to have fun with that. And that's all that I have. So, Lowell, we do have one more thing, don't we? In case anybody expects the train station to move this year, I doubt it's gonna happen, so I have actually brought it, a copy of it, pass it around Lowell and let's move the train station from councilperson to councilperson, because that's probably the only movement you're gonna see this year. That is, we believe that the carriage that you see there actually says Stevens Hose, or Stevens House on it. It's really hard, you have to get after it with a magnifying glass, but that was a gift to me from my sister-in-law. She
What's the
has,
building behind it, the
I'd have to see, I can't tell.
warehouse maybe or something?
Oh, yeah, over there.
It might be where the granary is now, or whatever.
Isn't that the creamery that was right behind?
It may be the creamery,
No, the creamery
It
wasn't
doesn't
there, the
look like
creamery
the-
was this way.
so.
I used to have, when I
Anyways,
delivered the milk at
We'll
the
pass that
creamery.
around and have a look-see. And there's some horses there and all sorts of people, so it's a very nice picture. So I
Yeah,
thought
it
I'd
is.
share it with the council, and we'll have a little movement of the train station. So with that, I'd ask for Lowell to make a motion.
I will make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Lowell made a motion, Ziggy seconded it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?